There is a specific taste that only exists in December. It is a flavor you cannot find in October, and you certainly cannot find it in July. It is the taste of a carrot that has been trapped under a layer of frozen earth, fighting the cold by turning its starches into pure sugar. It is the crunch of a kale leaf that has frozen solid and thawed out 10 times, becoming sweeter and more tender with every single frost. Most people believe that the vegetable garden dies when the first snow falls. They look out their back window, see the brown stalks, the gray sky, and the frost on the ground, and they think, well, that's it. Game over. They think the season ends when they pull out their tomato stakes. They retreat indoors, resign themselves to the grocery store, and accept that for the next 5 months their food will come from a plastic bag. But they are wrong. For those of us who know the secrets of the winter harvest, December is not the end. It is the beginning of the most delicious season of the year. It is the season of the living refrigerator. It is the time when the garden stops growing, but starts storing. And the flavors you pull from the cold ground right now are unlike anything you can buy in a supermarket. Welcome back to the Garden Sage. I'm Sam. Today, we are going to walk through the snow. We are going to ignore the calendar that says winter and look at the abundance that is still waiting for us out there. We're going to talk about the crops that don't just survive the cold, but actually require it to reach their peak potential. If you are sitting inside thinking your gardening year is over, I want you to put your coat on. We have work to do, and we have dinner to harvest. Before we look at specific vegetables, we need to understand a fundamental shift in mindset. You have to change how you see your role in the garden. From April to October, we are farmers. We are pushing plants to grow. We are watering, weeding, fertilizing, chasing away bugs. We are racing against time, trying to get that fruit to ripen before the frost. It is active. It is energetic. But in December, we stop being farmers and we become storekeepers. Right now, the days are short. In many parts of the northern hemisphere, we have entered what is poetically called the Persephone period, the time when daylight drops below 10 hours a day. Photosynthesis slows down to a crawl. Plants stop making new leaves. They go dormant. So let's be clear. We aren't trying to grow new food in December. We are holding on to the food we grew in the autumn. The soil, once it cools down, acts exactly like a root cellar. In fact, it is better than a root cellar. If you pull a carrot out of the ground and put it in your fridge, it starts to lose moisture immediately. It goes limp in 3 weeks. But if you leave a carrot in the ground at 35 degrees Fahrenheit, packed in damp soil, it stays crisp, hydrated, and fresh for months. Nature preserves its own. Our job this month is simply to protect that storage and access it when we are hungry. We are managing an underground vault of calories. Now, I promised you food that tastes like candy. That sounds like an exaggeration, but it isn't. It is biology. To understand why winter vegetables taste better, you have to understand what a plant is afraid of. A plant is afraid of ice. Think about what happens to water when it freezes. It expands, right? If you put a glass bottle of water in the freezer, it shatters. A plant is made of cells, and those cells are full of water. If that water freezes into sharp ice crystals, it punctures the cell walls. The plant turns to mush and dies. That is what happens to your basil. That is what happens to your peppers. They die because they are full of plain water. But the vegetables we are talking about today, the cold warriors, they are smarter than that. They have evolved a survival mechanism. When the temperature drops, they panic. But instead of dying, they start a chemical conversion. They take all the starch they have stored up in their roots and leaves, and they convert it into sugar. Why sugar? because sugary water freezes at a much lower temperature than plain water. Think about a bottle of vodka in the freezer versus a bottle of water. The alcohol stays liquid. In plants, the sugar acts as a natural antifreeze. So when you eat a carrot in July, it is mostly starch and water. It tastes fine. But when you eat a carrot in December, you are eating a vegetable that has literally turned itself into syrup to survive. It is sweeter, crisper, and more flavorful than anything money can buy. You cannot fake this flavor in a greenhouse. You have to earn it with cold. Let's look at the 5 stars of the December garden. Let's start with the root crops. If you were wise enough to plant carrots or parsnips in late summer, do not, I repeat, do not rush out and harvest them all just because the weatherman says it's going to freeze. Many gardeners panic. They dig up bushels of carrots, wash them, bag them, and shove them into a crowded refrigerator drawer where they get forgotten and go moldy. Leave them in the ground. However, you can't just leave them naked. If the ground freezes solid, you will need a jackhammer to get your dinner out. You want the soil to stay cold but unfrozen. The secret is insulation. You need to mulch. And I don't mean a light sprinkling. I'm talking about a thick, fluffy duvet of straw, shredded leaves, or even old hay. Pile it on thick, at least 8 to 12 inches deep over your carrot rows. This insulation traps the warmth of the earth rising from below. Even if the air is 20 degrees below freezing, the soil under that foot of straw will stay unfrozen, right around 35 to 40 degrees. It is a microclimate. When you want carrots for a holiday roast, you go out, push aside the snow, lift the straw, and dig. The smell of that damp, cold earth in December is intoxicating. The carrots will come out clean, crisp, and shockingly bright orange against the white snow. And the parsnip? The parsnip is the queen of winter. A parsnip harvested in October is just a white carrot. It can be a little woody. It can be a little bland. But a parsnip harvested in December or January, after heavy frosts, is a gourmet experience. It becomes creamy, spicy, and incredibly sweet. It loses that woody texture and becomes like custard when roasted. Some old-timers leave their parsnips in the ground all winter and harvest them in the spring thaw. They say it's the first sweet treat of the new year. I know. Kale. Some of you are rolling your eyes. Sam, I'm tired of kale. I get it. We have been oversold on kale. But let me ask you, have you ever eaten frost-kissed kale? Or have you only eaten the rubbery stuff from the grocery store? There is a massive difference. Varieties like winter boar or lacinato are incredibly cold-hardy. Their cell structure is designed to collapse when frozen to prevent rupturing. In December, the plant stops producing those bitter sulfur compounds that make summer kale taste strong. Instead, it pumps out sugar. But there is a critical rule you must follow or you will ruin the crop. Never harvest kale while it is frozen solid. If you go out at 7 a.m. and touch a frozen kale leaf, it will be brittle. If you touch it, it will snap. It will bruise. And when you bring it inside, it will turn to mush. You must have patience. Wait for the midday sun. Wait for the temperature to rise just a little. As soon as the leaf thaws on the plant and becomes limp again, that is when you harvest. The plant heals itself as it thaws. In December, harvest the lower leaves first, working your way up the stalk. The plant won't grow new leaves now, but the existing canopy can feed you for weeks. A winter kale salad doesn't need a heavy dressing to hide the taste. The leaves are tender and sweet on their own. Is anything more majestic than a stalk of Brussels sprouts standing tall in the snow? They look like prehistoric palm trees. These plants were built for the north. In fact, if you grow them in the south or harvest them in the heat, they are terrible, sulfurous, skunky, and bitter. They need the chill to clear their flavor. By December, the lower leaves of the plant have probably yellowed and fallen off, leaving a tall, woody stalk covered in tight green knobs. Start harvesting from the bottom. The sprouts ripen from the bottom up. Twist them off the stalk. Don't worry if they are frozen solid on the plant. Unlike kale, Brussels sprouts are dense spheres. You can harvest them frozen. Just bring them inside and let them thaw slowly before cooking. If you live in a place where the snow gets 3 feet deep, or you have hungry deer, here's a trick. Pull the entire plant up, roots and all. Shake off the dirt. Bring the whole stalk into a cool garage, a root cellar, or a basement. Hang it upside down. The sprouts will stay fresh on the stalk for another month or 2. The plant is still alive, feeding the sprouts from the energy stored in the stalk. It's nature's original packaging. No plastic bags required. Now, let's talk about salad. You might think delicate salad greens are impossible in December, but there are 2 that defy the odds: spinach and mache. Winter spinach is a completely different vegetable than summer spinach. The leaves become thicker. They get darker green. They become savoyed or crinkled. They lie flat against the ground to stay out of the wind. Spinach is incredible because it can freeze solid as a rock at night, thaw out at 10 a.m., and be ready for your salad bowl at noon. It is virtually indestructible. If you have a simple cold frame, just a wooden box with an old window on top, or some floating row cover, you can harvest spinach all winter long. The protection isn't to keep them warm, it's to keep the drying wind off them. Then there is mache, also known as corn salad. This is the secret of the European gardener. In France, winter gardens are full of mache. It is a tiny rosette-shaped green with a nutty floral flavor and a texture like velvet. It is arguably the hardiest salad green on earth. It laughs at snow. You can brush a foot of snow off a bed of mache, and it will be sitting there, bright green and happy. In the fairy tale Rapunzel, the mother craved a green so badly she risked her child for it. Many historians believe that green wasn't lettuce. It was mache. It is that good. It grows slowly, but it provides fresh vitamins when everything else is gone. If you haven't tried growing it, put it on your list for next year. You plant it in September, and you eat it in December. Leeks are the backbone of winter cooking. Potato leek soup, roasted leeks, leeks in stew. They provide that savory, oniony dip that we crave when it's cold. And they are one of the few crops that look beautiful in a desolate garden. Their blue-green flags stand up against the white snow, looking architectural. But a warning, not all leeks are winter hardy. You need variety specifically bred for overwintering, often called blue leeks. Summer leeks will turn to mush in a hard freeze. Winter leeks turn into iron. The challenge with leeks in December is getting them out of the ground. They have extensive root systems that hold on to the soil with a death grip. If the ground freezes hard, you cannot pull them. You will rip the top off and leave the edible white shank in the ground. You have 2 choices. Either mulch them heavily, just like the carrots, to keep the ground soft, or harvest a big batch during a thaw window, those few days in December when the temperature creeps up. Clean them up and store them in a bucket of damp sand in your garage or basement. They will keep for months. Now that we know what to eat, let's talk about how to manage the garden in this cold month. Because even ice-proof vegetables need a little help. You don't need a heated greenhouse. The single best investment for a winter gardener is a few hoops made of PVC pipe or metal wire and a sheet of garden fabric or greenhouse plastic. By creating a low tunnel over your kale or spinach, you aren't creating a tropical paradise. You are simply taking the edge off. You are blocking the biting wind. You are preventing heavy snow from crushing the leaves. Inside that tunnel, the soil stays just a few degrees warmer. That is often the difference between a harvest and a dead plant. But remember, ventilation is key. Even in December, the sun can be powerful. If you have plastic over your crops and we get a sunny 45-degree day, it can get to 80 degrees inside that tunnel. Your sleeping winter plants will wake up, start to sweat, and then freeze when the sun goes down. You must vent. If the sun is out, crack the ends of the tunnel open. Let the air flow. We want the plants to stay cool and dormant, not hot and stressed. And finally, mulch is your best friend. I cannot say this enough. Bare soil is dead soil in winter. The freeze-thaw cycle heaves the ground, tearing plant roots. Cover everything, even the paths. A thick layer of straw or leaves acts as a thermal buffer. It stabilizes the temperature. It allows you to walk in the garden without getting muddy. And it provides a habitat for the beneficial insects that are overwintering in your garden, waiting to help you in the spring. Why do we do this? Why go out in the cold to dig up a parsnip when we could drive to the store in a heated car? We do it for the connection. In December, our bodies crave warmth, heaviness, and nutrition. Nature provides exactly that. Root vegetables for roasting, hearty greens for soups. There is a profound satisfaction in sitting down to a holiday meal. Perhaps a roast chicken with glazed carrots and a kale salad, and knowing that the vegetables were alive in the ground an hour ago. They haven't sat on a truck for a week. They haven't been sprayed with wax to look shiny. They are real. When you harvest in December, you are participating in a cycle that is much older than supermarkets. You are remembering how our ancestors survived. They didn't see winter as a time of scarcity. They saw it as a time of opening the pantry of the earth. So don't let the snow fool you. The garden is not dead. It is simply holding its breath, protecting its treasures, waiting for you to come and claim them. Go check your garden today. Look under the mulch. You might be surprised by the sweetness you find in the cold.